In my original comparison of the Z Flip 5 and the Razer Plus 2023, I stated that the Razer was the fun option and the Z Flip 5 was the better and safer option. Well, after owning these phones for about 7 months, does my original statement still stand true? Let me start by saying that both phones have held up just about perfectly. Neither of the phones have shown any drastic deterioration of the hinge or the screen, which are the parts that I tend to worry about the most. With that said, the hinge on the Z Flip 5 is no longer the smoother of the two. My Flip 5 now has a couple of looser spots where it no longer requires the same amount of pressure to move it as the rest of the motion. This hasn't impacted the usability at all, but it's just something that I've noticed that it has changed the way it behaves a little bit. And because of this, the Razer has now become the smoother of the two hinges. And with the Razer, I had originally mentioned that there was some side-to-side play with the hinge while it was closed, and this hasn't changed at all, so that's a positive. It hasn't gotten any worse, and I didn't expect it to get any better, obviously. So basically, the integrity of the Razer's hinge is exactly the same as on day one. The unfortunate part of that is that it still has the issue where it doesn't open fully flat without some substantial pressure to open it all the way. I was hoping that would kind of work itself out with the use of the phone, but it's exactly the same as on day one as well. Moving on to the Razer's backplate, which has that fake leather, vegan leather, or whatever they want to call it. It was one of those parts where it kind of created a little bit of a vulnerability compared to glass, but I'm happy to note that it hasn't had any sign of wear and tear at all in the 7 months that I've had it, or over 7 months that I've had it. The Razer hasn't been my daily phone, so it's not like it's been in and out of my pocket constantly, but it has become my work phone, and on the daily I'm placing it on a phone holder that's spring tensioned, and that does bring up the risk of some wear and tear. Even with this type of usage, there is zero sign of any sort of wear and tear on the leather back. And of course, the Flip 5 is glass, so nothing to report on that. No scratches, which it can get scratched, but it's just a lot tougher than this leather's gonna be. So nothing surprising there, that it's perfectly fine. Moving on to the screens, both have held up perfectly. There is zero sign of any sort of wear and tear on it. There is no cracking, there's no separation of the screen protector, nothing whatsoever. On both phones, the creases have gotten slightly deeper, nothing too drastic, but as expected, just from having it closed a lot, it does get a little bit deeper. Even with this, I will give Motorola props on their crease, because even it being a little bit deeper than when I first unboxed the phone, it's still to a point where it's not noticeable visually, and it's barely noticeable when I pass my fingers through it. So yeah, it has gotten a little bit deeper, but from this point on, I don't expect any change whatsoever. Moving to the cover screen, not much has changed. It's made of the same glass as traditional phones, so it's gonna withstand a pretty good amount of beating, and it really has. None of the phones have any scratches whatsoever. The one thing that I have begun to notice a bit more are the bugs on the Razer side of things. There's one particular bug that annoys me the most, and that is with the notifications on the bottom left, the place where you tap on it to view your notifications on the cover screen. When I unlock the screen, I want to immediately be able to tap on the bottom left and see my notifications, but the Razer has different plans for me. Instead, I'm shown the weather icon, and it takes about a second for it to go back to the notifications. And as I go to tap on notifications, it switches back again to the weather. So it does it a few more times until it finally shows me the notifications icon where I can view my notifications. This just creates a gap in time where I'm literally doing nothing but waiting for the phone to stop bugging out and let me move on with my task. Anytime a user has to wait for a phone, it's automatically a poor experience. But aside from the bugs, the Razer still has the larger and more versatile cover screen, and it really is the more useful and well thought out of the two. The Flip 5, although it hasn't shown the same types of bugs, is just has the same type of limitations as when it first came out. Not much has been done with the cover screen, and it's kind of a letdown considering that they've already seen what Motorola did with their phone, so why not kind of implement some of their things onto the Flip 5? Especially since the screens are close enough in size where they really could do the same thing if they program it properly. I feel like in this one, Samsung might be playing it a little bit too safe. Moving on to the experience on the main screen, the Flip 5 software is great as expected. Samsung, with their bloatware and all, manages to keep their phones running super smooth. And as far as bugs go, One UI is one of the least buggy ones that I've used from my experience. The Razer, on the other hand, has shown some increase in lag. There doesn't seem to be a specific app or task that triggers it. It just happens to randomly lag a little bit, stutter a little bit, and it just doesn't make sense, especially considering it has a powerful chip in it. One of the worst lags that I've experienced was actually typing on the Teams app. I had typed up about a good sentence and a half, and all of a sudden it just froze for like a second, but I had just kept typing because I didn't notice. By the time it started up again, it had retyped one of the letters twice, so I had to go back and fix it. It might not seem like a big deal, but when I'm in the rhythm of typing something and I have to go back and fix something that wasn't even my mistake to begin with, it really is a bit of a nuisance. And that's definitely not behavior that I expect from a flagship priced phone. Moving on to the cameras, not much has changed on either phone. For the Flip 5, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but for the Razr, that's definitely not great. The Razr just doesn't take photos and especially video as well as the Flip 5, and I don't see that changing with this generation. Aside from some of the cool features that the Razr has, the quality itself is just not there, and to me, that's more important than just having some good features. My conclusion after 7 months of owning these phones is that I would once again stick with the Flip 5. It's definitely the better of the two options, even though the Razr has some things going for it. The issue is that I don't think Motorola's software is polished enough to really be charging a flagship level price. Even though it has mostly flagship level specs, the Razr doesn't behave like a flagship and actually feels more like a mid-range phone, unfortunately. Now that's specifically for the software, because the hardware is great and it's holding up perfectly fine. And it's a shame because I would really love both phones to be so competitive that it kind of propels both companies forward faster. My hope is that Motorola will be able to optimize their software enough where they're no longer chasing Samsung and actually competing directly head to head with them. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Have you had a similar experience to mine? If you found this video helpful, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel for future videos. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next one.